And we are live on the interwebs. Hey guys, this is Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with some of my one-shot buddies. If we want to start with Robert Ogre, and we'll move right along and introduce everyone, and we'll talk about what we're going to talk about.
Hey, my name's Robert Ogre. My channel's Robert Ogre on YouTube. I do videos about weird stuff, sometimes about RPGs. End.
Insane. Dude.
Yeah, Justin.
Oh, yeah. My name is Justin, also known as Hamenopi. I have a channel, Hamenopi. There we go. I have it right here if you're interested. I do role-playing games and more. I'm good.
Chepe, or whatever alias you're going by today.
I'm known as the Gamer of 1,000 Names, also he whose game shall not be played, the Niche King, both wrathful and has a return. I have many names. No, I am Pepe. My channel is FaunTrodden. You can spelled on this lower third, so you can hopefully see it and enjoy it. FaunTrodden. I have a lot of niche gaming content, Fate Accelerated, Round Robin GMing, genres you probably haven't heard about, such as Dark Deco, Neo-Victorian, Biopunk, Paris. I did a whole month on surrealism and dreamscape fiction and how you can do it in RPGs, so I have a whole playlist about an introduction on it, the different games you can play, and I also have examples on my channel. I get into theory, but the way I differentiate myself, or at least what I try to do to make it, is to show you first. I like to do one-shots to do as proof of concepts about different genres and different techniques, and then relate back to them in my videos, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can just see it for yourself. So check the channel out. Be introduced to new kinds of gaming if you like. I've been doing a lot of GM technique stuff recently because my gaming computer is out, and this computer I have limited access to. So if you want any of that, check it out. Sorry, that was a long intro.
No, that's okay. You also have a website where you're doing some custom fifth stuff, and I bring that up because the Nerdarchy channel, there is a lot of people that come to us to basically check out 5th edition stuff. So
I'm the purginglenses.wordpress.com. There's a link in a video on my channel about my sorcerer origins. I have 13 of them that make 21 different combinations, and these sorcerer origins can help you have hundreds of different characters if you're interested in them. I'm going to be doing a lot of 5e homebrew content. I also have races such as fawns and sylphs. I also have a homebrew setting that has a lot of custom content called aquica.wordpress.com. If you're interested in that setting and interested in any of the stuff there, a lot of people have complimented me on these races, so if you like those, you can check those out as well. So I do a lot of homebrew 5e content. I also ran a Alice in Wonderland 5e on the channel if you're interested in combining 5th edition with Alice in Wonderland. So.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun, and what I'll do too is after this video goes back into the channel, I'll go back and I'll put everybody's links in there to your channels. I'll put that link to your sorcerer stuff so they can find your website and check that stuff out as well. But the reason we're kind of doing this like impromptu hangout because someone in the one shot group is new to DMing, and he kind of wanted to know what we do to get started, how we put together our stories, and even if we had stories that we wanted to share that they could borrow. So I'm like, well, if anyone's ever seen me type, they would understand why I'm like, can we just do a hangout on this and talk about this? So that's what we're doing here. And I guess since I instigated the hangout, I'll just kick it off, and then we can just jump in from there with whatever. And I used to, when I used to write stories and come up with material for Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game, really, I would like set out to write a module. And what I learned over the years was it was the biggest waste of my time, because players are going to go off the rails, they're going to do whatever they want to do. So what I started doing is, every time they do something or encounter something, it creates, generally you're going to create each session X amount of unfinished plot threads that aren't going to be addressed. So I would just keep track of them, and I would keep reintroducing them back in. And when I first get started, what I do is I go over everybody's character with them and get their backstory. This is harder with some players than others. Some people, they're going to give you 3 pages and you're like, oh my God, this is like homework now. And other people are like, can you put a name on your character sheet, please? Something, help me, work with me. And, so I'll delve into that. And generally I pick something from everybody, especially in the first session, that makes for this crazy, like, random series of coincidences that brings the party together based on each of their backstories. And I've been doing it for years, and I've gotten fairly good at that. Now, with 5th edition, it's easier than ever, because even those guys that don't even want to write their name on their character sheet have this mechanic-based thing, built into their backgrounds. So they're going to be selecting things off of that, or even just having a background in itself. You can just go, well, what's that about? And and that gives you at least something to go off of. So 5th edition has gone a long way for D&D actually being more of a role-playing game and less of just like us rolling dice. So that's kind of how I get started. What do you guys got?
Hello. I'll go ahead, hop. I do agree with a lot of things, and 5th edition does facilitate the with the backstories and the bonds, the ideals, the flaws. I do agree with that. But if a person's not wanting to backstory up, they're not going to backstory up. They're just going to grab the stuff. And I used to have a problem with that. I used to stress over that, and it's like, oh man, why doesn't this person make a backstory? What am I doing wrong? And it just comes down to it. He doesn't want to make a backstory, and in the end, that's okay, because you could always create a backstory from the story you make.
That's absolutely true, and if you have 1 or 2 people at your table that do that, it's not really a big deal. I find the problem is if you have a lot of people that do that. So because I like to interweave everyone's stories together as I go, that's where the difficulty comes into play.
Yes, but if nobody wants to make a backstory, then just have a fun little one shot. Have some beer, have some pretzels, throw some dice, and just just have some fun. I mean, it would be worse to try to force people who don't want to make a backstory to make a backstory than just to be like, let's just have a good old couple-hour dungeon crawl and then be done with it.
Well, I got a good example. This happened actually a couple hours ago. I'm running the game tomorrow night, and I was kind of stressing a little bit because I made it sort of gory and sort of like pushing a few things that I usually wouldn't do. So I was kind of stressing about it a little bit. So I got a character creation. I was going to do like the social contract and all like that. And everybody's characters were so outlandish and out there that it pretty much wrote the game that I'm going to run tomorrow. It's going to be completely different than what I plan to do. So I'm just going to take everyone's backstories and elaborate on that. So sometimes it could work to your advantage if people come to the table with really good stories. And if they do, you should try to incorporate their backstories into your game if you can. It's always a good practice.
Well, yeah, that's the payoff for the player, and let's differentiate too, because I mean we all kind of hang out in the one-shot group, and there's definitely a difference between running a one-shot and running a campaign. So like I guess I spoke from the perspective of running a campaign. In a one-shot, yeah, it probably doesn't matter. You're gonna one-shots or convention-style games, you're gonna like railroad everyone into one direction because you have time constraints, and it's the only way that a game's going to happen. And the backstory isn't nearly as important. But I've seen other people, even in the one-shots, they do like SR2 Joker, Andrew Knapp does an excellent job of interweaving his backstory into the role-playing experience during the game. And and that's just one person. There's other people that do it as well. He just is one that stands out to me.
There's a few ways you could do it. The probably the master in the one-shot group of one-shots, at least in terms of being prolific and having like a good percentage of good ones, would be Jarl. Probably just because he didn't have a job for a while, so that's all he did. But the thing you can notice about his one-shots, right? His Jaeger one-shot was basically Monster Hunter Vikings. His historical themed 5th edition one-shots were all kill the thing, rescue these people, escape from this place, explore this thing. A very good thing to have in a one-shot is to have a clear goal and have that goal be the premise of what's going on, and then convey that in the title and when you present your one-shot to your group or to the one-shot group or to whatever. So if it's kill a monster, then that's what this one-shot's about. It's about killing this creature. If it's about escaping a burning building, then it's about escaping a burning building. If it's about being a Shadowrun decker and getting into this corporation and doing this particular mission, then it's about doing that particular mission. So isolating a one-shot down to a goal of some kind or a situation of some kind is probably the best advice I could give. Because it makes it clear, everyone knows what they're doing, and everyone can figure out their own ways of tying their character into that goal. So if you have a goal in mind to begin with, and then just state it. Very simple, one sentence, like 5 to 8 words. Kill X, save X, escape from X, whatever X is.
I definitely agree with you on that. I like to do one thing, it's called in media res, where you start out kind of like in the middle but closer to the beginning, where all the sleuth work kind of is already done, and you get like a small exposition of what you do, and it really jump starts the campaign. They already know what they're going to do. They have an idea. They have a direction that they can already go. And when you have that, that cuts out 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours worth of that direction. You can just go ahead and you're already on that train, looking at the beautiful scenery, the beautiful mountains and canyons and stuff, and you're enjoying the ride. And you just let the players go ahead and just take that train as far as they want it.
So one of the things too, like I forget the person that originally asked the question, is like, basically about sharing our stories and what we've done in order to create adventures and campaigns or whatnot. And other people have said it in the chat or in the comments, and it holds true, is basically steal everything. Essentially, it's not like we're not novelists. We're not writers per se. What we're going to do is going to be shared amongst a group of gamers, so we can use everything we want. I mean, our group has used Little Shop of Horrors, The Grinch, the Bassrin holiday special with the Heat Miser and the Coal Miser. So you can use almost anything. The other night, DFC ran a game he said was inspired by Darkwing Duck. So, like, there's tons of stuff you can steal from, whether it's books, media, whatever. And just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, I think as a new GM, people think way too hard on it, and they put a lot of pressure and expectations on themselves to run a game. Where especially I guess doing a one shot online, if it's live, there's a little bit more going on with it. But if you are, if you're at the table at home with people gaming and you like your friends, it's like you should relax. It's your friends, whatever. It's a game. How bad can you really fuck it up? You can't. I always hear this term like breaking the game. And it's a game, and you can't really break it. It's not even like a board game or a card game where you could really actually destroy something. No, we're a bunch of grown-ups playing make-believe. And like if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, you can always retcon it in an ongoing campaign. You can fix it. You can go back, and I think most people just appreciate the fact that someone's that isn't them is at the head of the table, guiding the story and giving them something to do, a night of entertainment. So I think a new DM is one of the first things they should do is just like, I don't know, have a beer or something before you start. Take the pressure off. No one's going to fire you.
A nice drink does soothe the nerves, especially when you're out of practice.
Yeah. Well, I just I started back about a year and a half ago, and I started running games maybe like 7 months ago again after like 15 years. So for me to get back into it, I was like, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I tried to do everything perfect. I tried to make up every single NPC, and then I started taking people's advice that would say that you're over preparing. So I'd go into a game and I'd be underprepared. So you kind of have to find your what you're good at and find those things and shine with that. And the things that you're not so good at, like if you're not good at improv, write a few things that maybe somebody would ask an NPC or something like that, or if you are good at improv, write yourself a basic skeletal thing on your page that helps you guide you along to the points that you want to happen in your game. But just find out what you're good at and don't pressure yourself too much because nobody's perfect. And at the end of the day, if everyone said they had fun, then it was a success. And you're always going to beat yourself up after a game. I don't know about everybody else, but I do. It's like, I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have did that.
That is good. I like the words you said. If you're new, don't try to be good. Try to be fun, and by being fun, you will be good. But at the end of the game, you'll probably think you suck because I still do every time. I'm like, man, I forgot so much. But my players love it, and they keep coming back. So.
Yeah, but that entire thing of sucking, it tends to be a normal thing. Like every good DM I have ever seen walked away from the table. That was the worst game ever. It's the same thing as a really good musician. You walk off stage, oh dear God, we sucked ass. But I mean, as long as you have fun, that's all that really matters. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be the most critical of yourself, most likely. And there's definitely sessions where I've walked away shaking my head going, man, that was horrible. No one's coming back to the table. And they're like, you find out that, no, they actually loved that session. But it was the one you thought went great that sucked. So it's a learning experience. It's like anything. The more you get out there, the more you do it, it's like working out. You got to keep flexing those muscles to make them bigger. And everyone... I haven't found anyone who's run a game yet that doesn't have a strength somewhere, and have weaknesses somewhere. So it's just practice. That's the only way to get good at anything. So, hey, Heath.
How you doing?
Hey, brother. So I've played a bunch of games with you. What about DMing? I haven't been in any of your games yet.
Could you elaborate on the question?
Oh yeah, you came in a late. You guys came a little bit late, but basically, that's funny. But I was just talking about the chat aside here. Basically, someone had asked about, what kind of stories do we run in order, to have games and one shots and campaigns, from the perspective of a new DM, and even if you don't run games, even your perspective as a player as well, you can throw in there.
Right. Yeah. So I've ran 2 so far for the one shot group. I used to play extensively, with a home group and ran quite a few of the games. As far as like what I think, I don't know, makes a good gamer, that kind of comes down to the type of game you're running too, whether it's a campaign or a one shot. I think if you're doing a campaign, something extended, intrigue's a really fun aspect to put in games. Social things, not make everything about hacking and slashing. It just gives, because a lot of people come in thinking they're just going to slay monsters and rescue princesses. So it's always nice to mix it up, keep things interesting, because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, I found as both a player and a GM, it gets pretty freaking stale. And like if you're losing the passion, as a player and as a GM, it's just no fun. So I definitely think one thing to consider is go outside your comfort zone and try new stuff to keep things interesting. And even if it doesn't turn out good the first time, keep doing it, and in the end, that's something else you'll have in your veritable toolbox per se.
And dude, you hit the nail right on the head there with that. That's just that you just got to keep doing it and keep experimenting and don't be afraid. I don't think enough GMs actually talk to their players enough about the game they're going to run or play in to see what it is that they actually want, what their expectations are. Some people, all they really want to do is kick in the door, kill the monster, and take their stuff. I've got a buddy I've been gaming with for 10 years, and that's what he wants to do. And he's a little bit older than me. That's just the game he likes. But and other people like different stuff. Other people like intrigue, and other people want to, they want to bust out their acting chops and just RP all night. So that's another key element. Like a lot of times Nerdarchy gets questions like about certain things that I just feel like if the person asking the question were to just talk to the players, talk to the people at their table, they would resolve it so much faster.
Oh, yeah.
There's no curtain. We use a DM screen, but it only goes up to here. There's no barriers. So if you just talk to people and ask them questions, I find that's the most direct route and usually the simplest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. One of the most useful things that you could walk away with from a game after you're done is feedback. They have like study groups and whatnot for a reason, to get that feedback so you can see what people liked, maybe what they felt was lacking, which will give you an idea of where you could improve, maybe see where some of the weaknesses are in your style as maybe a GM or a player, and give you ideas for things to consider to put in the game. See what they wanted, like maybe the game was too much hack and slash and someone wanted to actually RP. You got to try and get the feedback and strike a balance. Like say maybe if you're doing multiple sessions or something, like all right, we'll bust out 75% RP and social intrigue this one, and we'll throw in a combat for the people who just want to cut stuff, and vice versa. Then absolutely, when you're done, ask them, man, see what they thought, make notes of that. Like that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey Chepe, where do you draw your inspiration for your stories? Because you run all kinds of crazy stuff, man. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit.
I wouldn't ask that question. It's a dangerous question. In all honesty, I have a. We're going to be here forever. No,
dude, just give him your formula.
Yeah.
Give him my formula. Typically, what I do for for some of the settings, I will take a visual style or art movement of some kind, put it with an historical period with a particular city or a particular area of real world, and then also stick that with some kind of genre movement like biopunk, steampunk, diesel punk, atom punk, retro future, or surrealism, whatever, and then combine those elements together and see if that works. There's also a lot of I used to have a lot of niche literature interests as a kid. like The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm. I just read any novel I could get a hold of, as well as I have a background in biology, so I get a lot of inspiration from nature and a lot of very specific things and research that I've dipped my hands into. And a lot of random movies that not a lot of people like, and anime. Anime is a great inspiration because it's completely out of context. Like it'll always throw you a curveball. So if you want to see things from a different way, just take like a novel and take an anime and just put it together, and it just blows up into something interesting. So there you go. I draw my inspiration from everything. It's in short, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I always point back to basically media, you know, TV, films, comic books, novels. You know, that's the quickest, easiest way. You know, personally, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. You know, so I don't really, I don't try and do anything new. I just try and put my spin on it, and if I can make it personal for the players in the game, you know, and their characters, I find, you know, that technique works without fail.
Something else you can do that's pretty interesting is whatever you draw your inspiration from. Something that I like to do is ask yourself, what if? Okay, you know, you just watch Dracula. What if he won? You know, you just watched The Matrix. What if Neo died? And then you can use that as like an alternate universe and get inspiration from that. You're taking something that already exists that you can draw a lot of ideas from and just rehashing it in such a way to make it like, you know, an alternate reality. And I find that's a pretty easy way to get ideas and go about making stuff as well. You know, so you don't got to do a whole lot of heavy lifting.
No, that's really a good spot to go as well. You know, it gives you a good basis for a story arc or even a whole campaign arc. You know, like one I've always wanted to do is like a post-apocalyptic Marvel universe that I've just never gotten around to. So, and we're seeing pictures of something from Justin. I'm not sure.
I was reinventing your will.
Oh, nice. So, Josh, you run a lot of impromptu one-shots that I've seen, right?
I pretty much run everything impromptu. Honestly, I do so little prep, it's not even funny. I usually come, which I can put together in like 15 minutes, and you know, then just go with whichever the direction the players put it in. Because when I first started out, I would write down these little novella type storylines that this is what I want to happen, and then the players would get to where, you know, that one place where I wanted them to go and turn left, and I'd be like, fuck.
Hey, that sounds like every one of my characters in every one of your games.
Yeah, pretty much. I ran this Star Wars one shot through the group, and I had this entire storyline planned out on Mandalore. I just made it really hard to get onto the planet. There were two ways to do it. My players turned around and left. I had to come up with an entire game off the top of my head. It was.
Well, you know what? That's a really important fact that it took me friggin' years and years to learn. Is like, if you actually want your players to do something, don't make it hard for them to do it, and don't rely on a die roll.
No.
It's just like the stupidest thing you can do.
The dice are for players. We're like game masters.
Yeah.
The dice.
I just know there's so many times that I would put something together and I would hinge like the next part of the whole adventure on, you know, a series of die rolls or something, when, you know, it's just much more it's much easier if you go, oh, I want them to do this thing. Well, I should probably make it easy for them to do this thing if that's what keeps the adventure going. And you know, it's a mistake that I see lots of DMs make, and I'm a little slower than others, so it took me a while to figure it out. Oh, wait a minute, remove the obstacle, they keep going in the direction I wanted them to go. You know, and just like Josh, I don't prep much. Like I've been trying to run more regular games in the one-shot group, and now I just take about an hour and a half hour to jot down some notes and maybe a paragraph. And earlier in the week, I just come up with a title, and then like I wait until the day of the game and go, oh, now I got to actually write something about that title and make it make sense somehow.
Right. Yes, I find sometimes too much prep can actually be a problem.
Very.
Because it's like, oh man, I got this whole town written out. I got backstories for all the people, all these adventures in the town. Within 5 minutes, it's a burning ruin as they walk off into the sunset. Like, oh, that was a waste of 3 fucking hours.
That sounds like a Robert Ogre game, actually.
Yeah.
Where they burn everything down.
Yeah. Hey, as a matter of fact, all it takes is a bag of grenades sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah,
Josh?
the bag of grenades. Oh, God. Or droid cores. Cores work really well, too. Apparently, droid cores, if you overload enough of them, could blow up a space station.
I've seen some damage done with Alchemist Fire as well.
Oh, yeah. We've had a lot of games going.
Torch. That's it, man. A torch, and you're set.
Well, apparently, Main Man says all you need is a bag of nails and just a choke slam, which I totally agree with. Just a bag of nails. Throw somebody on top of him.
Grease and a torch. You're done.
Is it wrong that when he said the main man, the first name that scrolled through my head was Lobo?
Hey, man, Lobo is the main man.
Anders right under Lobo, but I can see where you might have your priorities mixed up. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Talking to your players is definitely a big thing. Because, sometimes a regular dungeon delve, a couple rooms, a big bad at the end and some treasure will work.
Well, yeah, and you can, as you go, like Justin said, is you can hammer out the stories as you go. Especially if you're talking about an ongoing campaign versus a one shot. A one shot really, all you need is a general theme, a direction to point them in, and everyone kind of has the idea that this is a one shot, so it has to conclude over a certain amount of time. So there's a certain expectation just from that. As where with a campaign, it's far more open ended. And there's plenty of places for you guys for the players to go wherever they want. Like we had a game just this last weekend, Saturday night, where there was several options. My character, we were on a ship. My character was a druid, so he spent most of his time wild shaped into a dolphin in the water. Basically mingling with Flipper, right? So they're like, well, you don't want to keep going that way because you're going to run into the pirate fleet. I'm like, well, that sounds like a bad deal. But if you go over here, there's this floating dragon egg that's really awesome. But the problem is, if you see it, you're going to be blessed. But there's like a 1 in 60 chance that the mother is going to be checking in on the egg. So you may not want to go that way. You may want to go the other way instead. So I go back to the captain of the ship, and I'm like, yo, we should go this way because it's a shortcut, and if we keep going the way we're going, there's going to be there's a pirate fleet. And the whole time, my character's like, I want to see the egg. I'm thinking, well, worst case scenario, the dragon shows up, I'll be in the water as a dolphin. I think I'll be all right. But my character was motivated to see a dragon egg. And he was a druid, draconic heritage sorcerer. So there's like some personal things going on there where, off of a die roll, like the whole campaign could have just been completely different and burned down. And it was open ended. So if you're running a game like that where you have all these different avenues, you can't write them all out. So part of being a DM is you're going to eventually have to learn how to do some impromptu. You're going to have to just go with it, or everything's going to be, a tunnel or a labyrinth, or railroading your players into doing whatever you want to do.
Ooh, what about the wonderful Quantum Ogre?
Quantum Ogre?
Mm-hmm. Where if either you go left or you go right, you still end up in the same destination.
Well, there is that too. You do have that ability as the DM, and it's not a bad trick to use. In a lot of instances, and I've done it. Or
The illusion of freedom is a powerful thing.
yeah, that's exactly it. Like you don't have to, like, there's no rules. Like as the DM, we don't really have to follow any of the rules, as long as everyone's having fun and you're not just really trying to screw over your players. It doesn't matter what rules you ignore or follow. Like, I guess someone was saying to me, like, or actually in the comments today, about how in previous editions it was easier to sneak by a dragon because of the way the rules, the mechanics are now. I said, well, what's the difference? If you want them to sneak by the dragon, and they don't do anything obviously stupid, like, I don't know, sneak up to him and pluck him behind the ear.
But hey, man, the rules say, all right, look, the rules say we're going by raw here, okay? Screw fun.
Right.
The dragon wakes up, all right? That's all there is to it. It's not that easy anymore.
Well, hey, me being the bard, I just want to go ahead and, and sing a song to inspire inspiration for all of us to sneak a little bit better.
But you do know the best way to get rid of a rules lawyer, right? You take all of your second edition books, because we all have a lot of them. You put them in a book bag and you hit them with it. That's definitely one way of doing it.
How many GMs here have planned an encounter and it was taking too long and just killed them? Killed the monster right away.
Oh, I think we've all done that.
I'd rather just kill the players.
A cinematic just slay something. Roll the dice. It's either a player or a monster, but it's cinematic and blood splatters everywhere. It rains crimson and iron, and I'm so thirsty.
Well, matter of fact, the last game that I ran in the one-shot group, and Heath was in it, a certain point of the battle was done, and there was still monsters there, but they were more set dressing than meant to be, a threat that had to be overcome. So, there were zombies, and after the master was taken out, I just had them go inert because, there's no point in a slogfest. And I know there's some GMs out there, and they're like, well, if I put it on the board, it's gotta be there until the end. And you don't have to. Like, there's no reason to just keep dragging things out.
Just to clarify before people hound me in the comments, that was a joke.
I thought
There's serious simulation.
Good idea.
No, I mean, no. There's a difference between purposefully killing them and letting them die. Yes, I'll happily let people die.
But see, I've had the worst DM ever. This guy would literally tell you, "I've got to protect my monsters." No, you don't. You're cannon fodder.
I tease Ted about that sometimes. He's a little protective of them. They're like his babies, But yeah, I don't care because I got a bunch more where those came from. And if I get bored with them, I can bust out traps or whatever. That's the whole point. There's no point in the adversarial DM. I never really understood it myself because, essentially in the game you have infinite power. You have access to everything. So what's the point? So I always try and go with whatever I think's fun.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I love second edition, the Monster Manual, man. Random encounters. Number of appearing for orcs, 30 to 300. You can totally crest the hill, and there's just an army of orcs.
I'm a pretty big fan of the rule of cool myself. While it might not be entirely feasible for you to, do what you're doing, if you make it sound badass, heroic, we could probably make that happen. Look, it's as long as you're having fun, and it looks cool as shit. We'll twist the rules a little bit, So I really enjoy that. I think that's important. That's always a good way too. As far as the whole monster thing is concerned, You know, if they roll a crit on this bad boy and they've been slugging away at it, and this dude just blows me away with this awesome cinematic description of how he just fucked it up. Like, all right, you killed the monster. I mean, it had 100 hit points left, but that was too badass.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a fantasy game of make-believe. I mean, really? I mean, if it's cool, hell yeah, go for it. I agree totally with you.
So Chepe brought up a good point about, occasionally it happens, about, maybe we should talk about some of the one-shots we've been running, in order to help people that want to run one-shots or participate in them, what they can kind of expect. I've recently done a series of Eberron ones, and with those, when my objective was to, have the players have fun and end it in an Eberron fashion. So, like, if people are familiar with the Eberron books, they'll get it. If you're not, maybe not so much. But like the way those books always end, it's kind of like, did we win? Like there's this victory, but it always feels a little empty, and it's very like Arcana Punk and noir combined like that. So like when I put those together, like one thing was, it's Eberron, so I definitely would have some things in there that say, okay, this is Eberron, and people who are familiar with the setting will be able to latch onto it, and even if they're not, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is actually a lot different than anything else I've played in. And then, my end goal was to have that weird kind of ending, and then I would pick a centerpiece for each adventure. Like the one was, I knew I wanted them to hang out on an elemental airship, because it's Eberron, it's kind of a cool setting. Another one I wanted to use an event. And in the city of Sharn, in Eberron, they have this race that goes on every year. So I wanted to throw that in the backdrop. What else did I do? The last one I ran, Eberron has these elemental trains called the Lightning Rail. So I'm like, what other setting do you get to do something like that in? So I wanted to throw that in. And I'm not really sure. I don't remember exactly what I did with the first one. I just did like a dinner party at a noble's estate, in the city of Sharn, and that was kind of how I kicked things off. But each time, my process was, okay, come up with the centerpiece, and the way I would do that is go, well, I plan on running a one-shot. I need a title for the event. Come up with that, and then that's what I'm going to build around. Just something interesting. And then everything, and then a lot of it, like especially if you get a decent group of players, you as a DM, a lot of times you don't have to do as much. It's a lot less work than you think. The players are going to interact with things around them. They're going to interact with each other. That you throw in a couple combats, give them the win condition, a victory to end everything, and as a DM, you're kind of done. So that's kind of been my experience with that, with one-shots and how I've been doing them.
Most definitely.
Something else that you can do that is pretty interesting, mostly for extended campaigns. This really wouldn't apply to one-shots. Is a living world with real consequences for certain things. It's like in the background, stuff's happening. Like if they were given a quest to go help this mayor, stop this, ogre horde or whatever, and they decided, yeah, we're going to help the ogres. And they burnt the village, and they think we're good to go, plunder the mayor's house, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't kill him. And they think that's the last they've heard of him. And, a couple sessions later, they're getting attacked by mercenaries and assassins. They have no clue why, because they've never stopped to consider, hey, the mayor, he's got a bone to pick with you now, so he's hiring people, to kill you for what you did, which can help add, plot hooks and stuff as well, and make them think about the consequences of their actions. And, that's always something fun to do as well, and give it a bit more of an immersive feel, I think.
Ooh, I like that. I want to riff off that real quick. Another thing you can do is if you find something that your players are really jiving off of, something that they're really interested in, you can use that as a carrot to drag them to where you want to be. Say, Wednesday, they were fascinated about this apparent goblin that was in the vicinity, and they kept on looking for it, and this goblin was going places where I wanted them to go. So I got them to go to locations I wanted to go via this carrot that was a goblin. And it made things a lot easier because they were all for doing it. I told them goblins that way, they went for it, and I lit another thing, I lit the characters, or I lit the players pretty much write the whole story from then on that. And I just helped out. If they had any questions, I answered it, and I let them to tell their own tale.
Sometimes the player can, you can just listen to the players talk amongst themselves, and you can just take what they're talking about and add it in there, you know, or throw them a curveball. I was doing one, and it was like a post-apocalyptic deal, and they were going down the street, and I had a line of it was gonna be, you know, it was gonna be some monsters for them to fight, and they could barely see that these things are crossing the street, and they freaked out so much about it that I just decided to turn them into cows so that they could go and kill the cows and get meat from them. You know, it was just like a little twist. But sometimes the people will talk, and you'll hear what they're saying, like, man, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And sometimes you could take what they're expecting to happen, you know. And it might be more interesting than what you came up with.
Yes, yes. Sometimes the players have better stories than you do, so just use their stories.
Well, not only is that true, like you're also given that payoff, right, for being right, for guessing what was going on all along. But you know, they don't know that you weren't going in that direction until, you know, unless you tell them. So, and not that you could even do that afterwards. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, by feeding into their expectation as they're kind of riffing off each other and giving it to you, it just creates a better experience for everybody. You know, one, you know, for you, they're actually taking the burden of creation away. And two, like when they finally get to the thing, like they think they've been stalked by a werewolf all along, and you had no plans for that whatsoever, and then you give them the werewolf, you know, it creates that payoff, that reward for solving the mystery. It doesn't matter that there wasn't really a mystery.
Right. Another, as a player, I was playing in a Call of Cthulhu game, and there were werewolves. And I got bit by a werewolf. And for an entire session, about 6 hours of gaming, I thought I was going to turn into a werewolf. I told the characters, the other players, that they were going to have to kill me. You know, it was like going to be this end of this great thing. And the GM, just Ian Christensen, Fantastic Dimensions, let me go through the whole thing thinking I was going to turn into a werewolf, and added that tension that I added myself. And it turns out that in the Call of Cthulhu world, werewolves don't work like that. So I never did change.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
No, that's also like feeding off of what the players are talking about. Even if you don't go in that direction, you can always keep encouraging them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were trying to get silver and all kind of other stuff. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like, we did so much stuff that was absolutely useless. Like at the end of the game, I can't forget the end of the game, because you've been playing for like 6 hours this way, and at the end of the game, it's like, yeah, you wouldn't have turned.
Nice. But it doesn't matter, because like the whole game, you go through that. You know, that tension builds the whole game, and the expectation, and you don't know as the player that it's not going to happen. So in your mind, it's happening. It's just a matter of when. You know, I remember actually SR2 Joker talking about that game and thinking about, man, I'm going to have to put him down, and he goes through the whole, the whole thought process of this character, pulling out the gun and blowing off your head before you can turn. So it builds great dynamics if you just listen to your players.
Yep. And he never did say anything about that. It was just an assumption to put on myself and everybody else.
Well, that's it, man. Like we've all watched werewolf movies. You get bit by a werewolf, you turn into a werewolf.
Right.
It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So that's just that's another example. You've run a lot of games on the one shot.
Yeah, I've done a few. I've actually been playing a lot more than running them, but I'm gonna be running some more soon. I got one tomorrow night, but sometimes I'll just like when 5e first came out, and that was like I've always played like sci-fi games and stuff like that, and it was my first delve into medieval games, as well as just getting back into it. I was sitting there and I was reading through the monster manual, thinking about running a one shot, and I found a couple monsters I thought were cool, and I built a world around the monsters, and took what environments they lived in, what are their actions, what kind of things they would do, and built a game around that. And an important thing is that if you're doing a one shot, you don't want to have more than a couple encounters, because anything that lasts like over 4 or 5 hours, I like to keep them around 2.5 to 3 hours long. Is like really long. It can seem really long sometimes. So you don't want to add too many things in there, and people get tired out and just check out of your game,
Yeah, I feel like 2 to 3 combat encounters are like the tops in a one-shot campaign. I mean, because it's different than when at your home group playing, you're sitting at a table, people get up, they move around, you probably have dinner in there as well. Where I feel like the one-shot really condenses down your gaming time and really focuses you in on what you're doing, and it's really good for that too. That's really one of the strengths. One of the things that Ted from Nerdarchy was telling me, was like, at first he was really leery about gaming online and one shots, but then after he'd been in a few, he's like, there's less of the BS that's at the normal table. There's, it's not just people hanging out. They just kind of there's more immersion, in this format, because of the way the one shots run, because you have a limited amount of time, and because the way Google Hangouts works, in the sense that you almost have to stay turn-based, because of you start stepping on each other, then you can't hear what other people are saying anyway. And once you get into that groove, it works really well for that.
Yes, I do say I actually do Adventurers League on Wednesdays, and I do say doing the OSG has really upped my game. I'm a lot better, and I'm a lot focused, and I can say a lot more in a lot less time, especially in the table environments. And I know when to take those breaks, and it's because of listening to other people run stuff and planning stuff and running stuff, and being able to listen to myself afterwards with the recorded stuff, which is awesome. With all that stuff, I'm able to critically figure out places where I can improve, and every time I do it, there's significant improvements in my game, and that's also showing over in like my table games at the friendly local gaming store or wherever else it might be, and it's all around all across the board.
It was Robert, actually, the first one I seen bring that up, the fact that you can go back and watch your games. I mean, it should be simple enough, but I never thought about that. Like the fact that you do have this record of what happened, and you can really just learn from what you did, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I gotta say, man, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough to go back and you think you did just awesome game, or you think it was bad, and then you watch it and it's even worse. And you're like, oh man, I cannot believe this. And I have improved so much since I started doing this, and I was almost tempted to delete all of that stuff, but I'll leave it up
Keep it,
so
baby.
that other people can see, this is how it can start, and then you can get better. Like my role playing in games, the way I think about games, the way I run games, the way everything. Just by being in this group and playing so much and talking to people that actually play, and it's helped me so much with my game. I mean, and you just got to get over that one time. Get on and play one time. Get on and GM one time. And after you do that, just like you said, the other members of Nerdarchy were scared to do it, or not scared, but just once you do it that one time, you get over that hump, and it's like you're free.
Do it now.
Pop that cherry, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
do it now.
Oh, with the OSG, it's been really cool. I mean, everyone, my game's upped. It seems like everyone who's on the OSG has had their game upped in some way, shape, or form. I guess not me being the person that I am, I had no problem playing the first game. In fact, I was like psyched. But some people are nervous, apparently.
And honestly, I'll say it right here. Like, I actually still get nervous sometimes when I'm running and talking, and they're like, "Oh my God, how many people are watching this? Why I talk?" I'm naturally an introvert, so for me, it really is a lot of having to come out of my shell and go, I'm just going to do it. And for other people out there, if you're the same way, you just have to do it. Like, there's no one's giving out a grade. Like Robert said, he's had games that he's taken down, and he's got other ones that he wanted to, but he's like, no, you do need to leave it up there. You need to leave the bad stuff up there so people can see where we came from and see how you start and be like, oh, so there is hope. The one-shot group really does accelerate your skill level, and it does. There's something else going on there too, is the fact that when you game in your home group, you have a limited number of people to draw from, and it's not as limited as you think. I will say that, because once we started doing Nerdarchy, our group had died down to like 3 or 4 people, and by going out and hanging out where nerds are and gamers are, and just reaching out to the community as a whole, we have more players than we know what to do with now. We run 2 different groups. One's 9 and one's 7 players. So, but gaming online, you get the cream of the crop. Like, you can actually cherry pick the best role players, or you can even just watch the best role players in action and really learn. And I've seen some people who I consider less stellar role players really stepping up their game just from being around other people, which is pretty awesome. So.
Oh yeah, man! The OSG will put your fucking skills into the way you improve. It'll put them into fucking hyperdrive. I mean,
it's like anything, though. When you go play a game with someone that's better than you, you learn from what they're doing. You see, what their techniques are. You're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? I can do that, and it just, it gives you reason to strive for better things. So that's a pretty cool aspect about it as well, so
it's like playing chess. I mean, you never play chess with somebody who's worse than you. You always play with somebody way better, grandmaster if you can, because that's going to up your game.
Yeah, you're not going to learn anything by playing with someone who's worse than you.
One thing I will say is that you think your first time DMing is scary. You think that's horrible. Just wait till you put up a game, and then fistful of dice says, "All right, I'm going to play." You're going to pee yourself when you see that. You're going to,
yeah, I don't think I would.
Oh my God, Nerdarchy's joining my game. What do I do? What do I do?
Well, dude, to be honest with you, the last game I ran, Heath was in it, and I saw Barker was going to be in it. Or maybe that was the one before that. It was the one before that, and I saw Barker was going to be in it, and I'm like, oh my God, he's freaking amazing when it comes to role playing.
What's great is you let them do all the work, and you take all the credit.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
You see, I guess what it is, my lack of emotions makes me not care about that stuff.
So yeah, so before I ran that game, Ryan and Ted happened to both be in that one. I was like, you guys better step up your game and don't make us look bad. And it was a lot of fun.
I think everything about this medium makes you step up your game. I mean, the reason Hangouts will accelerate things so much is because there is a lot less of that bullshit, but, you know, there's a lot less room for that bullshit. You can't really talk across the table, hey, man, hand me that slice of pizza over there. Dude, we got any Mountain Dew left? I mean, you can't do that shit.
Hey, Josh, you have any Mountain Dew left?
Can I have a Mountain Dew?
Totally, man. I got some in the fridge. Want me to go grab you one? I'll try to shove it through the monitor.
Yeah. So I was talking to Andrew Knapp, and like, you know, he's actually fairly new to role playing. He's only really been gaming for a couple years, but you know, he's been keeping a running tally of how many games he's been in online.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 120 or something like that. I'm like, do you understand, though, how much you've accelerated your gaming experience? Because you've just, and I don't know what time period that is, but for a normal person, that's over 2 years of gaming. If someone games once a week, you know, and I would say that's like an average.
The first online game was the one that Juice ran, and you were in it. SR2 Joker. And we started the one shot group 5 months ago? 5 months ago?
So I mean, it hasn't been that long.
Wait, was that the one I accidentally jumped in?
I don't remember. It was, but it was no. This was like a online game. That was even before the one shot group.
Oh, the D&D one, the 5th edition one, Juice ran.
Yeah.
We were all monsters. Pretty much.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so that's like 120 games in like 5 months.
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
I was at 6 months. It's 5 or 6 months. The OSG has not been going that long. So.
120 games in 5 or 6 months. Yeah, this doesn't accelerate your gaming and your learning curve at all. Just dang.
I mean, honestly, though, in all fairness, Lloyd did like 120 in 1 week.
Yeah.
Well, he had nothing better to fucking do. So.
Yeah. I don't know if Lloyd's keeping track or not. So, but even and there's another perfect example. Lloyd's brand new. Like I think less than a year. All of his gaming's online, maybe.
For the most part, from what I understand, it is. He like bumped into Ian or something at a get together, and he was like, "Check out the one shot group," and he just exploded.
Yep.
They're like Lucky Charms, D20s, and then it was off and running.
Yeah, he played in the first Call of Cthulhu game that Ian ran for us. Yeah, so he's like he's a prodigy.
Yeah, he is. He is the best new role player I have ever seen in my life. And sometimes the way he role plays, I'll just be sitting there like watching, like, I was way worse than this. What the fuck?
Here's the thing, right? Again, gaming online like this, you get to be around a lot of other good role players, and the other thing is, right, when you're sitting at your home group and you're looking at each other, you can reach out and you can touch the guy next to you. You know, there is always, like, especially when you first start, that weirdness of actually role-playing the role of the character at the table. I think this medium makes it easier, and if you had 3 or 4 other guys in the hangout doing it, it's not so weird anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you definitely feel more comfortable, kind of being, in your own domain. And then when everybody else is doing it, it's like, God, I don't feel like such an idiot anymore.
Yeah.
There's also, there's a lot less chance of pissing somebody off enough to where you're going to end up at a fist fight in the front yard, which I've seen happen a lot. Dude, Ham, I'm telling you, man, you can't take me.
I'll take you out to the bar or to the movies. We can wine and dine. Let's do it. Let's go.
We've had violence at the table. We've had threats of violence at the table. We've had dice smashing at the table. We've had someone. We discovered that someone had a top plate at the table because it flew out of his mouth and landed in the center of the table. Weirdest thing. And so, like, yeah, you do this for a long time. You do see some weird stuff, and again, when you're online doing it, you get to, like, ignore all the distractions, and it's just about the gaming.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have literally seen a father and a son in a fist fight in the front yard over a character death.
Well, people get attached to their characters, man.
Yeah, I don't know if it occurred to them that they just made you a new character.
There was a lot of alcohol and some drugs involved.
Oh,
Well, as long as there's alcohol and drugs involved.
yeah, it's all good then, of course.
I did not say that on. I just said that on. I did not say that on. There were no drugs involved, nothing illegal.
This is recorded, brah. You just put your foot in your mouth.
Wait, who said anything about illegal drugs?
Yeah, man. What's wrong with taking a handful of aspirin?
Yeah, I mean, you're the one who popped that up.
Aspirin will so fuck you up. I mean,
In the
Back on
trade
track.
realm. Wah.
Right.
yeah, I think we've got
um,
on track. Let's stop talking about weird shit we've done.
Ooh.
How do you feel about something I'm curious, rewarding creativity in a game? It's something that I look for and I desire to think outside the damn box and reward people for doing this. When they're presented with option A, B, and C and they pull out F, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Didn't even
Dude, I love
consider
to
that.
get effed. I love to get effed. I mean, when I get effed, I will throw inspiration out like Mardi Gras beads and freaking, just beads and Mardi Gras. It's Pavlov's dog all the way. If something freaking blows your mind, dude, reward the shit out of that so it happens again and again and again. And then you're inspiring not only that one person to do it, but you're inspiring everybody else at the table. And then all of a sudden they're like, dude, what if I describe something this way? And then all of a sudden everybody's just like doing these crazy cinematic narratives that are just blowing your mind. And then they're doing all the work for you, and you just sit back and get entertained and just pass out. Like, dude, it's just like you have like a freaking popcorn, like a thing of popcorn, the bags you get at the movies, you just inspiration, go, let's do it. And then like I said, the blood rains down.
Right.
Sorry,
Well,
I got distracted.
I see you're very passionate about this. That's excellent. But where do you, as awesome as creativity is, and as much as I strive for it, it's both as a GM and a player. I'm always looking for unorthodox ways to complete tasks. Is there a limit? Do you say no, or that's just a little too ridiculous? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it really depends on how ridiculous they're willing to get. There's that very big gray area. It's actually quite big, the gray area, where it's sensible, then there's nonsensical, and then there's just insane, and then there's just stupid, and then there's disruptive.
Right.
So it really depends. It's case by case basis. There's each time you got to think about it, and if it's absurd, have them describe it out for you. Have them
Right.
have them tell you how they're going to do something that's ridiculous. But
Right.
if they're being stupid, if they're being little chuckleheads, I'd be like, okay, sit back down, boy.
Right. Getting a little out of hand now. I see.
Yes.
I see what you're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about the whole checks and balances for it though too? Once you do this crazy, awesome thing that's just completely left field, it's like, all right, you can do that, but kind of thing. Like you wanna leap from the banister and grab the chandelier and cut it and drop it down on them. Like, all right, rock me an athletics check, and we'll see if that happens.
Take some fall damage.
Yeah. One thing I do like to do is if it's a pass-fail mechanic, if it's a fail, if I can make it like a success with a complication, I will really look at that route. I mean, because it's just you failed at your task. Okay, you get to figure out what that failure is, and it doesn't have to be the binary. option that's obvious. It could be something else happened. And
Do
so
you give the power to the player to describe how they fail?
if they roll a 1, I have them describe it. It's beautiful. My players love and I'm a public DM. I play, you know, I run at the gaming store. So I get different people, but I do have my core group, and if they roll a 20 or if they roll a 1, I'm like, hey, tell me what happened. Some of them just like, oh, I missed, and that's okay. Some of them just go and say this craziest stuff, how they fall straight on their ass and their sword goes 15 feet away because they think it's really cool, and I think it's really cool, and everybody else is like, dude, why the hell did you do that? That's so dumb.
Right.
But then like, that's so cool, and then everybody gets into that story a little bit more. People get sold into that narrative, and they actually get invested into it. So yeah, let stupid, absurd stuff happen. It's a fantasy game forever. We're casting magic missiles that don't miss.
Absolutely.
We're casting fireballs and
What the?
Yeah, and like you said, after that person does that cool description of the 20 of the fail, the person that said, oh, well, I missed, well, next time they might want to step up their game and try to describe what happens a little better, you know? It's good to get people to try to describe everything they're doing.
Yes.
Not everybody will, so you have to do it a little bit, but more people start doing it around the table, then it rubs off, you know?
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Dave? I'm curious to see what you got to say.
Okay, so I actually set my DCs based on how cool the thing is they're trying to do.
Okay.
So if they're just trying to do something that's douchey to like kind of like game the system or power game, you know, then I will set it really high. But if it's something fun, I'm like, absolutely. Like Andrew Knapp in one of my games, he got pushed into a pit with Juice's character with a Minotaur on top of them, and there wasn't enough room for him to wield his
Sounds like
polearm.
every Saturday night for them.
Yeah, right. So there wasn't enough room for him to wield his polearm, and he's a polearm master. He's like, I'm going to break it over my knee and fight with the pieces. I'm like, go ahead, give me a strength check on that one. And I set the DC absurdly low because I just thought it would be funny for him to do it. And if he would, essentially, I think he would have had to roll a 1 to not do it. Then I've been like, you got to break it over your knee, and you know he might have knocked himself out or something, or you know it's Andrew, so I'd probably just let him describe what happened because whatever I would say would not be nearly as ridiculous as whatever he's going to say. And so he broke it over his knee, and then I was like, dude, if you want to fight with both halves as per the polearm master feat, go ahead. It doesn't say it has to be in one piece. So I'm like, whatever. If someone wants a chandelier to swing off of, why not? But if they're going to be like, oh well, I'm gonna find a wand of magic of fireballs over here, then no, you're not going to find that. But yeah, anything that just adds to the scene and to the fun.
Now, do you reward them outside of just letting them do like cool shit though as well? Like say the barbarian leaps from the battlements to fall and smack the foe. So aside from like athletics to see if you can do that, like all right, you're jumping down this some bitch, cracking him from great height. You can apply some of your fall damage to that.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely do that. Oh, here's a good example.
You need to lead with the elbow though.
Yeah.
Macho Man.
Yeah, it's from the top ropes.
Well,
I did that in a game once.
You can tell me. You can tell me if this works for you, right? So the scene is, I have the party following a bunch of thugs into a tavern, where another couple of the players happen to be goblins that perform there, and they're like, well, what we're doing is we're juggling, and they're bottles of whiskey, and after each catch you take a swig. That's how we do it. So I'm like, all right, well, all hell breaks loose. These thugs drop the bouncer in the bar when he tries to stop them from going into a private room. So one of the gobelos was like, well, I'm going to pelt the thugs with the bottles. So they do, and it doesn't do very much damage, but they're all covered in booze now. And the other one, one of her entertainer things is her character is a fire breather. And at first, like, start racking their brain on how to set them on fire. And they're like, well, wait a minute, aren't you a fire breather? And I'm like, yeah, I took that. I'm like, well, go for it then. So I let them do like a die 6 of fire damage and catch them all on fire, and they had to put each other out. And I think, either just after that or just before that, the Dragonborn fighter picked up a table and knocked like 2 or 3 of them down by throwing it at them. So yeah, I guess I kind of like give them rewards for doing cool stuff.
Yes. What was
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Otherwise, like, there's no point in doing it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I will actually, if somebody says, oh, I find this rod of fireballs over here, it's like, okay, it's a cursed rod of fireballs, and it's going to fuck you over. You can find it.
So yeah, that was probably a bad example, but like if I feel like what they're trying to do is in spirit of the game, then I go with it.
One thing I do one thing I do is I tell my players that if there's a reasonable chance that there's something nearby, don't even ask. Speak it into existence. Make that thing appear. Like, if you think there might be a barrel next to you, there's a freaking barrel next to you. I'm not going to draw it on a battle mat. I rarely use a battle mat anyway. But, just because I didn't say there's a barrel next to you, if you want a barrel next to you and it makes sense for it to be there, there's a freaking barrel next to you, and you can pick it up and throw it. So, have some fun, use some agency, help build that world, and if it's something like that's going to work, say there's like a freaking fireplace off to the side, and if you're like a grapple expert, hell yeah, you go over there and be like, there's a fireplace over there, be like, cool, the fireplace is out. No, or we'll figure it out. It's a lot is like, I encourage use of the environment and stuff that maybe I haven't said, but if it makes sense for it to be there, use it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're at a tavern, you're going to have chairs, you're going to have tables. It's not that hard to flip over a table and rip off a table leg.
Yeah.
All that stuff's going to be there. Why not be able to use it?
And it makes for a cooler story.
In that same bar fight, Ryan's character is a chaos mage sorcerer, and so he happened to be standing at the bar when he went to cast a spell and dropped the 1, and then he proceeded to roll on the Wild Magic Surge table and roll the fireball.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
So he drops himself, nearly drops the cleric, and, well, you're standing at the bar and you just set off a fireball. Well, what's on the other side of the bar? All the booze. so they pretty much burned down the tavern.
Well, I bet he wasn't very popular after that.
Oh. And then I think another time he turned himself into a sheep, and the goblins, which are basically they're modeled after juggalos. So
what is a juggalo?
A juggalo? Yeah, YouTube that sometime, and you will find out.
It's a part of the song.
Yeah, that's a neat thing.
So they jump on the sheep that's trying to flee the combat and force it to ride back into the combat.
What another question that occurs to me. What are your thoughts on, say like plot armor? Say you have this villain. And he presents himself to the party, to perhaps give his, riveting speech on all the bad things he's going to do and how he's going to ravage the party. And they come up with some clever way to throw his ass off a cliff or unleash a stampede on him. And for all intents and purposes, they just killed him. Is he dead?
That was my bad.
Or do you DM fiat that or something? I mean, despite the fact that they literally just found a way to whack this guy off the rip, like do you have him stay dead or through whatever magical DM powers he comes back conveniently via plot armor?
Kill that mofo. That was your own bad. You have to bring the next. Hey, this guy has a boss. Or he has a cohort, or he has a coworker, someone else. Let them have that death. I mean, if they outsmarted you, Give that to him, man.
I've done both. I can't say no because I've done both. And let's face it, we play in a game, where you can throw fireballs, read minds,
Or resurrect.
and do all this crazy stuff. So, there are so many different ways that you could feasibly explain why they get away if you feel they need to get away.
Oh, absolutely. Shield, Featherfall, Hold Person. That's a personal favorite of mine for villains.
Recall. There's so much, but it really depends on the story that I'm going with, and if I think it'll add to the story one way or the other is what would be the determining factor for me.
Yeah. Reskin him as a son, bring him back, and don't make him do the same mistakes that Dad did.
Oh, absolutely. Another thing that I like to do, like to really get players interested in the game, is when I first start the game off, I'll act like I'm running a character when it's really just an NPC. And then halfway through the beginning of the game, they're going to get in this big fight, and this major baddie is going to, hold person everybody but this character I'm playing, and then this character I'm playing is going to get decapitated right in front of them.
That's another question. In some of the campaigns I've ran, what are your thoughts on NPCs, and particularly like, a helpful one, I guess, where, they show up, they rescue the NPC, rewards them, helps them fight in the battle, and then, they're trying to convince the NPC to keep going with them, hire them as a mercenary and otherwise rely on them. What do you think about that? Do you let the NPC hang out? If they're using this thing like a crutch, or how do you determine what happens with things like this?
There's several reasons why I hate the NPC party members. One is anything that takes away from the spotlight of players. Two is I don't want the extra work, as the DM of running an NPC for them. So it may actually, if it does happen, I may advocate it. Sometimes it just depends. Like we ran a Spelljammer game, and one of the characters had won a Spelljammer ship in a gambling. And playing cards, and so he started looking for a crew, and so he found some crew members. Then one of them went and got a bunch of other crew members that were that came back to the ship in the middle of the night, drunk, rowdy, and very unsavory looking. So he's like, "Can I go to a mercenary guild hall and hire bodyguards?" So I was like, so in that case, I allowed it. It never really came into play, but the idea was he felt like his ship was in danger of a mutiny, and he felt like he needed protection from his sailors. So I allowed it. Throughout the course of the adventure, it never came into play. They never saw any combat. It stayed pretty much centric to the players in the game. So it really just depends.
Personally, when I put it in NPC, any kind of NPC, they're eventually going to become cannon fodder. So I will totally let them know, you like this guy? Yeah, you can keep him. He'll stay with you. He dies in the first round of the next combat.
Oh, that's even better. You want to play on the emotions of the players to get that. You want them to get more invested into the story. So, I mean, if it takes killing their best NPC friend, God's sakes, kill him.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the instances where I like it because if it furthers the development of the characters in the game, that's kind of like and progresses the story. But just because we only have 3 players and no one chose a cleric, I'm not really into that.
Well, you don't need
just play without a cleric,
right?
Or you can make the NPC weak,
Yeah,
and a burden. They're helpful for information, but in battle you got to watch out for them so they don't get killed.
Well, and that's
you can do it like the variable rules where a short rest is like a long rest. Just give healing surges and stuff like that. If there's no magical healing, and if they need it, if they don't need it, don't worry about it. But if they need it, it's a magical world and you get healed. Done.
Yeah, well, I felt going along with Heath's actual original question, like, that's when I think it's okay, when when it moves the story forward, when it causes character development, or you want to throw it in there to go, okay, you can have these NPCs, get them attached, and then start eliminating them to get some angst from your players, get some buy-in, make them really, really hate your bad guys.
Yes.
I mean, I have used NPCs for so many things, and I'll totally admit I will completely and totally cheat my players with that.
Like my Jar Jar.
Yeah, but I've actually had an NPC in one game, this was years ago, where nobody was playing a ranger, so they had nobody who could track, and nobody who was really good with a perception skill, because they didn't have a rogue either. So they hire this NPC ranger I put in. Well, the first thing I do is, as he's tracking and, using his perception skill, I roll a die just to fake roll it. I'm like, he crit failed. I had actually rolled a 20. He gets peppered with arrows.
No refunds.
Oh.
What about, to touch on an earlier subject as well, I brought up creativity. Now, do you limit that to certain aspects, like just situations, or do you let them work out ridiculous ways to just make absurd items? Like, as an example, it's like, all right, I got a barrel, and I have this, I have 2,000 gold, so I'm going to take this barrel, put straps on it, put some hoses and needles in it, stick those in my arm, and fill this barrel up with nothing but healing potions. So I'm constantly being pumped with healing potions. It makes sense, what do you think about that? Just finding crazy ways to just do stuff that you just wouldn't think about. Would you allow something like that, or just getting crazy with making items and stuff like that?
Well, it depends a lot on the game itself that's being run. In the context. If you're running an Everon type game, there's a lot more room for kind of crazy Arcana Punk stuff. But if you're running more of a Greyhawk, you're really stretching that setting. And some things don't make sense too. I don't know. I just think running hoses from a barrel into your arms sounds like a bad idea.
The way I would do it is, think about it this way. Having that much healing potion dumped into your veins, what the fuck would it do to you?
You'd be looking tip-top all the time.
No, that would be an overdose.
Bane.
That would be an overdose of healing potion, and you wouldn't really turn into Bane. You would basically, essentially, become a god. I mean, you would have divine energy being pumped through your veins constantly. At that point, guess what? DM takes your character away. Your character's now a god in the Pantheon.
Did anyone else hear the disclaimer from the Viagra commercials? If this lasts for more than 4 hours, seek medical attention.
Yeah. Then the barrels run out and you crash and you die.
Yeah. What about letting them do it and then having there be repercussions for doing
dependency? Healing potion dependency.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't slow down a healing potion in the next 24 hours, you start getting exhaustion now or something.
No, I would totally make it like crack.
Yeah, exactly.
You are totally going to be willing to go into a back alley and do some really bad shit.
You got that healing potion, bro? You got that healing potion, man? You gonna fix?
Yeah, it depends on the game. I could see a game where that could happen.
So then I would be like, all right, do you at least have the medicine skill? Oh, no, and you want to jam needles through your veins.
That's fine. That part over there has healing word.
Oh, yeah, that could be fun.
So yeah, I mean, I've let people try outlandish things. In my current games, I'm leaning more towards the old school AD&D when it came to making magic items. I kind of really despise what they did with 3rd edition with it. After a while, where your mages can pump them out at will, pretty much.
Well, it wasn't free. You used to have to be able to craft and pay for the material components and all that, and spend the time doing it. Just saying.
It's just my play style and what I personally enjoy.
Yeah.
thematically, I liked it in like AD&D where it was like if you were going to craft a magic item, you had to go on a quest in order to even figure out how to do it. Like you had to spend money to do all the research, and you might need a unicorn to willingly cry into a blessed vessel for you. And then you might have to go to a specific forge to have the steel, smelt it down and craft it in
years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like second edition had like some serious crafting rules, and not to mention if you got to go to a unicorn, you're going to need a virgin female.
Yeah.
By second edition standards.
What are we playing? I mean, are we playing Eberron? Because if it's Eberron, yeah, we're going to poop out a magic item every 1d4 hours. If it's like Dark Sun or Greyhawk, yeah, it's probably best to go on a quest to get them.
If it's Dark Sun, you don't want a magic item at all.
If you're playing in Dark Sun and you got like a steel sword, like you're looking pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And, like all the magic items in Dark Sun seem to be really, really cursed. Anyways, you don't want them.
I always thought it'd be interesting in like the Dark Sun setting to like let someone play a Warforged, because that would have some hilarious repercussions.
People are trying to scrap you.
Everybody's trying to bring your ass to a chop shop.
Let's make it happen.
What's that?
Let's make it happen. One shot group. Come on, let's do it.
A whole party of Warforged that crash land in Dark Sun.
Oh yeah, they'd end up on
that'd be
blocks.
hilarious. Yeah. That'd be good stuff, man.
It would be like driving a Mercedes through the ghetto. It'd be on blocks in like 5 seconds flat.
So now the good part about that is a lot of the bad parts of being in Dark Sun you get to ignore because you're Warforged. But
right.
then the other end of that is everyone is really trying to take you to the chop shop.
You're like a veritable like walking philosopher's stone. Like I could go for a knife. You know how many knives I could make out of this guy if I melted him down? Like, ban the village. Let's go.
Like 2, and it's so worth it. 2 metal knives. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah. So yeah, actually, absolutely, the campaign setting is huge. I actually like what they do in 5th with. It's kind of a little bit of the 3rd edition with a little bit of the AD&D feel to it as well with the way they work magic formulas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a decent compromise. I think like the first time you do it, it should be really hard, and then going forward, it gets easier. But I don't really like the idea of if I'm not in Eberron, I don't like the idea of the magic factory.
Right. I mean, that's definitely something I think you'd have to work towards and be able to reasonably make happen. Like if you're like a level 2 wizard, you're not making a Vorpal fucking sword without doing some kind of excruciating quest or whatever to do it. And who's to say it even works? It's not as though you're an Archmagi, so.
I guess in the game Ted's running, one of the wizards wanted to try and make magic items, and we're like 3rd level. We just gained 4th level, I think, and he was trying to make a ring of. I think he was trying to make a ring of water walking, and so it turned into a ring of produced water, like 3 times a day or something.
Yeah, that's that's funny. Making stuff like work not how they wanted. What about cursed items? What do you think about cursed items? I think they're funny. Like, I had a friend, one of the games I ran, for example, who was so hard up, man, for a ring of invisibility. He just had to have this thing. He's talking about selling his left testicle. And he had no business crafting one or, at the level he was. So I'm like, all right. You go ahead, went on this quest to get all the components, blah, 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 and he makes the ring. And it was cursed. It turned him invisible, but just him. All his clothes and everything else that he was wearing, you could still see. He's walking around looking like Hollow Man.
Nice.
And he ended up loving it. He's like,
nice.
This is the greatest. I'm going to strip naked and then go infiltrate this area, you know, like,
Oh yeah.
See,
I mean,
I love that. I love cursed items. I mean, because if you get these low-level characters, you know, wanting to do this crazy shit, I think it's 10 times funnier to let them and just make it so horribly, horribly out of place or awkward or just randomly stupid
you can try.
that
right.
they you know, can't get out of it. Like, I literally had one ring. I can't remember what it was. It was like a ring of protection or something. So when the guy put it on, it definitely put a shield around him. It was just a bubble that he couldn't get out of that slowly filled with water.
Beautiful.
Well, that's kind of dickish, but you know, I'm not against cursed items, but you know, if you put them in your game, if it ends up disrupting your game,
Yes.
don't be surprised, and remember who put it there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, if you like, you look at Lord of the Rings. I mean, let's face it. Essentially, that whole story was about destroying a cursed item. You know, because it was cursed for anybody but Sauron. So.
Yeah, it wasn't that dickish. I mean, all he really had to do to get the bubble to go away was to say the activation word backwards.
But did he know that?
No.
See, you know, I've done it before. I'm pretty sure most people a lot of other people's done it before. But cursed items as being, you know, passive aggressive. No, I've seen it happen a lot. I've done it before, but you know, I've seen other people do it badly. Oh my God. But you know, they're just angry and they're just, oh, I'm going to make this thing cursed.
I'll fully admit he drowned.
Oh,
What do you think? You think there's like a right way and a wrong way to do it? Should it be kind of, you know, a super detrimental thing, or you know, to use the, you know, my invisibility ring as an example, like it functions, just not in the sense that you want it to. But
Well,
that's cool.
I don't
That's
see
cool.
that as being cursed. That's more of a quirk.
Yeah.
It's got an odd quirk to it. No, if it's a detrimental thing, you know, that's a cursed item. I think it's going to shift the story to be about that cursed item, because if it's really a bad curse, that person wants to get rid of it. They're not going to want to do anything else until they get rid of it.
Oh, yeah, unless
Very
they
true.
die from the first use.
Well, then problem solved.
Yeah.
Character.
well, that's because you're an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
Hey,
But-
I put in a really easy way to get out of it. All he had to do was say the word backwards.
I'm sure that was the first thing that occurred to
Was the
him.
word Bob?
No,
Yeah.
no, it was not.
Mixoplex, or whatever the friggin'
That's,
name is.
that's Mr. Mitzelplixix.
Yeah, that was
Mine.
exactly it. That's the hint I gave, was making it that word.
Well, so what do you think then? Like, instead of, you know, what about, like, I guess items with quirks, if that's what you would consider that? How does that appeal to, you know, other guy? You know, you guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure,
I'm totally
why not?
for that. It makes it interesting.
Yeah, it makes it unique, and if they get it, like actually, I did create a magic item called Wings of Mercutio, and it was actually after Philip Posey's familiar that died horrifically in a one-shot. The next one-shot that I ran actually it's been in several ones. This Wings of Mercutio he had seriously a hawk with Down syndrome. And what it was is
Thing.
yes, and what it was is it had this majestic hawk with his wings halfway out. One eye was looking up to the sky, and the other eye was looking down to the ground. And it's kind of symbol, if you don't know, you know, it's either a symbol of, you know, downs or all right, I'm not trying to say that, but you know, he had just crazy eyes. That was Philip Posey's description. But you know, he had eyes going off in different directions. And it actually was just a quirky little thing where you blew into the mouth of the statue of the hawk, and it would give you, let's see, a cure wounds at the lowest level, It was 1d8 plus 2, and it only worked once a day. But he heard about, like, there was people at my local gaming store actually discovered this magic item, and then he heard about it. He's like, holy crap, what's going on? And interestingly enough, the other guy actually was Lloyd. When he was actually still new, his character died and actually named a town in my homebrew world after him too. So stuff like that, little quirky stuff, little small things like that, actually are really great. And especially if you have the same players in different campaigns, you can recycle, reuse, or throw nods to stuff they did, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" And it's a really great experience, both hearing it as a player and being able to deliver that as a game master.
No,
Right,
that's actually, you're
absolutely.
right. It's really cool whenever you can throw out those Easter eggs for them to find.
What's something that I've wanted to do I haven't done yet is play a handicapped character, someone who's blind, missing an arm, perhaps has a bum leg. How would you approach something like that from like a GM standpoint? Would you punish them if their character is trying to overcome this and be a blind monk and are you going to make them like have a harder time hitting stuff, or are you going to just allow it for game purposes and role play aspect kind of thing? Like, how would you approach that?
I
Well,
would give all the agency to the player to do that. Just personally, I'd be like, role play it, make it beautiful.
yeah, I kind of feel like that's okay, but there's got to be, like, if you say a character's blind, then if they get deafened and that's their way of perceiving the world, then it's going to be really harsh because they set it up that way. But you have to figure out what the balance is. It's like if the monk is blind, there's got to be some consequence for being blind. Obviously, you can't see.
Right.
But does it have to be crippling? Not necessarily. I mean, you can probably finagle something. Maybe you give them blind sight 10 foot.
Yeah.
So they can see, they can basically interact and see everything around them within 10 foot as long as they have access to their other senses.
I mean, also without my context, I'm legally blind too. I mean, so it doesn't. I mean, there's different definitions of blind. I suppose we're talking about totally can't see a thing in this case.
He's got his eyes gouged out of his skull.
Well, let's just say his stats are even better because of that, and it's the deficit of the blind. You can't make perception-based checks.
Perception-based visual checks.
Yeah, you can't. You can't make visual checks. And cool. Have fun.
You sure ain't going to be able to read in a medieval setting. They hadn't invented Braille yet.
Magical Braille.
I kind of do that stuff with characters if I make them. Like if I do a dump stat, then I feel like you should probably explain that as something.
Right.
I had a fighter warlock with an 8 dex, so I explained it as he had a bum leg. He walks with a limp, and it causes him to lose balance and stuff like that. So that's generally how I incorporate that stuff.
Now, would you impose penalties on yourself for that role playing it, or would you, as a player or as a GM, would you, try and use that as well to impose penalties, not necessarily to punish them, but just for the scene aspect, like you have a bum leg and you're trying to do charge this guy, like let's roll to see if you can make it.
Well, I kind of feel like for one, like if you're role playing off of a stat that has a penalty already, like it's built in, but then like say you go to do something and you crit fumble, right? Well, it could be your bum leg just gave out. Like there's definitely ways to role play it in. I don't think you have to add penalties to role play it in.
Right.
Where you can just use what's there. It's going to happen. The dice are going to fail you at some point.
Oh yeah, man. I think in some ways as anyone who's a decent role player, and some people who aren't decent role players, I've seen new people do this. We've all hampered ourselves in some way or another. I mean, I've seen people roll a crit fail and you'd not even wait for the DM to say, okay, you describe what happened. They just described what happened, and it could be so much better than anything I was going to do that I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yep. But I think the most important thing is communication, out of character communication between the player and the DM, and some kind of consistency. I mean, it's either going to be the player who role plays the penalty and applies the penalty, or the game master who does, and that needs to stay consistent. Sorry, it's after 1 o'clock. I'm dead tired. It needs to stay consistent throughout the thing, so you're not getting double penaltied, because that's just going to suck, and that's going to lead to a not so fun experience, maybe.
Right.
And on that, being it after 1 o'clock, I just noticed I do need to head out because I have to wake up early.
Yeah, so do I. So, with that, if anybody has anything closing they want to say, they can say it now, and we'll just wrap it up. And we'll do this again. I think we should do this more as a one-shot group anyway on specific topics to help people that are going to run games.
Yeah, I kind of ran away with it there, just wanting, everybody's input on different subjects.
Well, that's all right.
That's good.
I think it's all helpful. So if you want to go, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, hey, make that leap. Try it. I mean, don't be scared. You're gonna mess up. Just keep working at it. Nobody's perfect, and you never will be perfect. So find your strengths, run with it. Hey. Yeah, that's it. Have fun. Fucking have fun. Damn it. Stop
that's it, man.
Yeah, it's definitely focus on having fun, and let your players carry the load for you. Don't carry everything for everybody. Make sure let the characters describe what they can and help you tell the story. Also, just communicate with your players before the session. Just basically find out what they want and get that in line. Kate, if they want a hack and slash, just make a hack and slash. Make it fun. Or if you want like a psycho noir, neo-Victorian thriller in colonialist Native America, I'm nod to Chepe. Put that out there, and that's some people. There's somebody's going to be interested, and maybe you get 2-3 people interested, and if it's an amazing game, there's going to get hype behind that, and next time you run it, there's going to be more people that are interested. So just be out of character, communicate clearly what you expect, and then the players that are in agreement with that, the over like thousands of people that are in this one-shot group now, there's going to be people that like what you're selling, and they're going to at least try it, and you're going to just focus on having fun, and don't worry about the minutia, I think it's called. Yeah.
Yep. Heath?
Yeah, everything that these two gentlemen just said absolutely, rings true.
Ding dong.
As a GM, don't be a dick, and absolutely get feedback from your players, to make stuff more enjoyable. Every game is going to get better. It's probably not going to get worse. So strive for greatness. Improve. Watch other people's games. Pick their brains as a player. Have fun. Don't be scared to get in games if you haven't played one, and think outside the box. Put yourself in this fantasy setting. What would you do? Rule of cool, man, trumps everything, in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
All right, Josh?
Yeah, man, just like they said, man, the only thing the only way you can ever get better, the only way you can ever move forward is to fall on your face over and over and over. So basically, man, practice makes perfect. Go out there, get in some games. Go over to the one-shot group. We will get you in a game. Somebody will get you in a game. I just about guarantee it. In fact, I would almost put my reputation on the line if I had one. But regardless, have some fun, man. Go out there and do it. Just get in the game. Be brave. Don't let childish bullshit keep you away from it. Don't be shy, anything like that. Get over all that stuff and just jump in there, have fun, and just do you, man. Just be you. That's pretty much all there is to it.
Right. And you guys all pretty much said it. And with that, I'm going to put links to the one-shot group. I'm going to put links to all these guys. Check their channels out. They're all great role players. They're all a lot of fun. Great guys, and you'll find a ton of great people over there in the one-shot group. So, until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.